Hey guys, this week building the slide for my homemade boring head. That's what it'll end up looking like. And I've already gone to the trouble of rounding off this part. It only needs to be, where's the full dimension, 825 thou thick. So that's approximately there. So I've already rounded off that. I'm keeping this base here in case I need to put it in the vise. I don't need to use a V-block with the square base on it. It's much easier that way. But as far as I can tell from this drawing, everything I need to do can be done in the rotary table as it sits right now. With the obvious exception of like doing both sides at the same time, because that's not exactly gonna happen. But the plan is this side with the holes is the side that's facing up right now. So what I'll do is I'll machine these flats, drill the few holes, and then I can cut it off on the bandsaw, flip it over, and put it in the vise, and then I have something solid to hang onto it in the vise to put the dovetails in the other side. So, let's go. So I did end up with a really nice finish on this surface. A few little air bubbles and stuff came through, and then there's one big one over here. But hopefully, the way I have the rotary table positioned, I'll just machine that right off. Alright, so I took a measure of the outside with the calipers, split it in half, marked the center, and then just eyeballed the center to find the center point there. And now what we're going to do is drill these 3 holes. So I'm already sitting over the top. I know this next one is 460, so I'm going to move over. That is where hole number 1 is going to be. I could have center drilled, switched out the bit, and then drilled the final hole, well, close to the final hole, which is 11/64. And that probably would have been a little bit easier way to do it, but this way, because I don't have a lot of travel, I don't want to have to be in and out with the drill bit. Actually, my head is as high as it will go at the moment, so don't really have a lot of options for raising and lowering that. These drill bits are self-centering, so assuming I'm close to that, it will automatically follow that same hole. And I need to come down 675. So in order to do that, I got a scrap piece of paper here. It's just a piece of phone book paper. Lay it over the top there. And then we're gonna lock this bit down with our precise controls so that I don't have to have 3 hands to lock the bit later. Just gonna come down till the bit touches. Let's try it this way to see if I can't get a better look at it. A little bit low. That should be okay. So now I know that the end of my drill is approximately sitting on this flat surface. So I went in 660. The drawing calls for 675. Right here. Yeah, I'm not using a 1/4 inch drill. I'm using an 11/32, which is 343. So that'll give me just a little bit less material to take off when I ream. And I don't actually have a reamer for this size, so I'm just going to go in through with an end mill. It should work just as well. Alright, changed out the tool. It's sitting at 0 approximately. Probably come down another thou or so. There it is right there. That's basically 0. And instead of using this right here, the quill to come down, I'm actually going to lower the head. Just tighten up these bolts just a little bit to take the slack. And we'll see how I can plunge. See if I can plunge. Finish those 3 holes up. I got this flipped over on the side, and I've found the location where I need to be. Once again, the drawing didn't give a clear number from this face, so I had to take the overall length of what this is supposed to be and subtract back to get this. So what I'm going to do now is going to move over. I'll show you here. I'm going to move over and I'm going to drill this hole and this hole 0.75 from each other, which means that they are supposed to be they're supposed to be 0.75 from each other on these 2 sides, which means that I need to move over 375 to do the first one. Then I'll come back and do 0.75 for the next one. and then I can actually get in there and cut out that section. I'm going to do things a little bit unorthodox, if I can find my tools here. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to put the end mill in there, and then that'll give me a flat spot that I can then center drill and then drill. I think this, which one was it? No, it was this drill right here. And I'll drill all the way through to create that that round section in there. See if there's a better idea of what it should look like. Yeah, see? It's round right there. Normally I wouldn't put an end mill in a chuck like this, but since all I'm doing is plunging, and I'm only going to go down enough to make a flat that I can then center drill, it should be just fine. This is a 1/4 inch drill, by the way. Alright, through on the one side. Now I need to put in these three, which are for the locking screws. They lock each one of those. So I need to spin this guy 90 degrees. What I've done, I've swiveled the piece 90 degrees. I've come back in 375 thou from this. I don't even know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see there from that hole we were drilling. So now I should be very, very close to centered. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, just touch, and then I'm going to drill with a 1/8 inch drill. It says I need to do to number 29. Don't have that. Going to go a little bit smaller with a 1/8 inch. We're just going to have to tap it really slowly and gently because it's not the exact recommended drill bit. It's what, 10 thou smaller. I've come in 263 from the face here, and we're going to drill. Make sure I'm actually low enough here. That'll be okay. We're going to drill a little center drill pilot hole. Doesn't need to be deep, just enough that the 1/8 inch drill will line up with it. And that's the first one. I'll do the next two and get back to you. Alright, as you can see, we got 3 holes drilled, not tapped yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw. I'm going to slice it off, leaving about 100 to 200 thou extra over this 825 we have. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut this piece out and this piece out so that we're left with this sort of shape. Actually, it'll be this sort of shape right here. And then I'm going to clean it up on the mill. So I'll be back in just a second and I'll be all cut. Alright, so I've got the corners cut, the base cut off, and I've got this set up so that these 3 holes line up with my axis of my mill. And how I did that was I put a couple of end mills in here. Just happened to be the right size. There's a little bit of play, but that's not going to make a huge difference. I took just a random cutter that I had. This just happened to be the dovetail cutter. I used it because it had a straight shank right in here. And brought out my straight edge, which just happened to be one of my knives. Lower this down, and then touched in the center, moved the table over, touched on the outside, got the difference on the dial, and then I spun the rotary table to account for that. Checked it again several times until it was close enough for my purposes. So now should be fairly well squared with the table. And all I got to do is come in here and machine that, the four faces. Alright, so I went ahead and machined the face of this here, nice and flat. Now what I have to do is make the corresponding dovetail, corresponding rough piece first, and then I'll put the dovetail in. But I did a little quick math. I measured this guy, compared it to the drawings, and I figured out that I need to come in 240 thou from each side, and that will be the high point of my dovetail. It'll fit into this little corner, if you can actually see there. And then once I make the I think it's the gib on this side, it'll fit into there, and then I'll make the gib to fit. Alright, so the edge of this is right on there now. So I don't actually need to know the dimension of my end mill. All I need to do is come in 240. Set the dial to 0 first. That's 1, that's 2, 20, and 40. So that should be good on that side. Now, we're going to come down. Sharpie there. Unlock this. Okay, that's fine right there. And I need to come in 200 thou. I'm pretty sure this end mill can do 200 thou. But we'll do 100 at a time. There's my first 100. Now, just need to do the exact same thing on this back side. Alright. I'm just doing these dovetails by eye, not measuring them in any realistic sort of way. Okay. Just wanted to make sure I'm still at the right height. Alright, one thing left to do, and that's to put the, what's it called? It's to put the cavity for the nut. You can see right in here, there's a little hole there. I don't think it's actually shown over here. No, you can't even see it on this one, but just a little cavity. I gotta figure out where it goes, and then I'll start doing it. Alright, so I found center here, this little guy. Basically what I did was I took the overall diameter, divided it by 2, set up my calipers, marked it, and then with this guy, it's kind of hard to see because this is the best angle I got for you, but it's just a piece of 1/8 inch mild steel, and I've filed a point on the end. And every time I put it in the machine, oh, how do I close that? Hopefully you can still see what's going on. Every time I put it in the machine, give a little file to make sure it's running nice and true. So because this slot that I have to make is only dimensioned on the outsides, I've taken and just done a quick sketch up here of the dimensions that I need to do from point to point. Because this calls for 0.63 corners, I'm pulling out my 1/8 inch end mill again, but I've got to get the little pointy thing out of there first. It's not going to come out. So in there you can see that's all it is. And I just keep it in my mill slot over here, just in case I need it. I need to come down 132 to start my first corner. Alright, that should be done. I was going a little bit slower than I normally would, simply because I'm really afraid of breaking this end mill. And it's the only one that I have in that size. So if I break it, I gotta go out and find another one at KBC or Busy Bee, both of which are 45 minutes or an hour to get to. Alright, there it is. When I drilled these holes for these two corners, you can see there, they didn't line up very well with each other. Better way to do that would be using a ball end mill, ball nose end mill. I ran a tab through there. They were what, 832. So that's fine. That's been done. And the hole there, it needs a little bit of cleaning up on the sides. I left just a touch in case it did need to be cleaned up. And if it didn't, then I could just make the nut a little bit smaller. Not a big deal. But show you them fit together. You see there, they fit pretty well together. Just enough room for the gib, and it slides nice and smooth. So that's the body. Or sorry, that's the slide. And you guys have yourselves a good day.